We all know that person. And hey, maybe it's us, who has these giant, amazing dreams. They're going to start a business, write that novel, completely change their life. But then weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and, well, nothing really changes. It's such a common story, and honestly, it can be super frustrating.
So, does this sound at all familiar? That huge gap between the incredible future you can picture so clearly in your head and the reality of what you did today? You've got the ambition, you've definitely got the idea, but taking that first step just never seems to happen. What is going on there?
All right, let's get right into it. The most important thing to get your head around is that this is not a character flaw. It's not about you being lazy. It's actually about a handful of, well, predictable psychological traps that our own brains set for us. But here's the good news. Once you can see the trap, you can get out of it.
Okay, so our first trap is a really sneaky one. It feels productive, it feels good, but it's one of the biggest reasons we stay stuck. It's what we call the progress illusion. So get this, what's so wild here is how our own biology works against us. When you sit there and daydream about crushing your goal, your brain actually releases a little bit of dopamine, a little hit of satisfaction, almost like you've already done the work. That chemical reward tricks you into feeling accomplished, which, you guessed it, totally kills the urgency to do the actual hard stuff. So how in the world do we fight back? Well, it's with a really simple habit. First, you have to consciously draw a line between your dreaming time and your doing time. But here is the absolute key. At the end of every single planning or dreaming session, you must take one tiny physical action. I'm talking send one email, write one sentence, put your running shoes right by the door. That tiny little step is the bridge from your thoughts to the real world.
All right, let's talk about trap number 2. This one likes to disguise itself as being careful or strategic, but hiding underneath all that perfect planning is something else entirely, a deep, hidden fear of actually failing. This isn't about not having enough ambition, it's about protecting your own ego. Staying in the planning phase feels safe, right? You can research forever, you can strategize, you can build the perfect plan, because in that little bubble, your brilliant idea can't possibly fail. It's a total defense mechanism. This quote just nails it. As long as they don't try, their dream is still perfect. It's flawless. It hasn't been touched by the messy, complicated reality of actually trying and maybe messing up. To act is to risk damaging that perfect image in your head. And for a lot of us, that risk just feels way too big. The way out of this is a mental shift. First, you have to stop seeing failure as some final judgment on you and start seeing it as just data. It's just information telling you what to try differently next time. And second, you've got to make the first step so ridiculously small that it feels too easy to fail. Don't think write a chapter. No, think open the document. The goal here is just to get the ball rolling. Okay, on to our third mental roadblock. This is that little voice in your head that says, oh, I'll start when I feel inspired, or I'll do it when the time is right. It's the super common idea, this myth, that we need to feel ready before we can possibly begin. And this is just a fundamental misunderstanding of how motivation works. We think we need motivation before we can act, but actually, psychology shows us it's the other way around. Taking action is what creates motivation. That feeling of being ready or inspired doesn't just show up out of nowhere. You generate it by taking that first step. So the habit here is to completely flip the script. Commit to acting first and just trust that the feeling of readiness will catch up later. And the most practical way to do this? Take your feelings out of the equation. Look at your calendar right now and schedule just 5 minutes to work on your goal today. 5 minutes. When that time comes, you start. Period. No excuses. All right, next up is a trap that feels incredibly productive, but is actually a massive energy drain. It's that endless loop of planning and questioning and all the what-if scenarios. We call it the overthinking spiral. Thinking about every single possibility, every outcome, every tiny little detail, it feels like you're making progress. But what's really happening is you are just draining your mental batteries. By the time you've thought through every angle, you're too exhausted to actually do anything. You spent all your energy on thinking and have nothing left for doing. So here's the fix. Treat your planning like any other task with a deadline. Give yourself a strict time limit, saying 20 minutes to plan. And when that timer goes off, you're done. You have to stop.
And then you have to immediately act on whatever good enough plan you have. Perfection is the enemy of progress here. Action is the only thing that matters.
And now for our final two traps. These go a little bit deeper. These aren't just about your process. They're about who you fundamentally believe you are and what you find rewarding.
So check out this comparison. This is such a powerful idea. You can have a goal right there on the surface, like, I want to become a disciplined writer. But if deep down, your hidden identity, your secret story about yourself is, I'm the kind of person who never finishes anything, well, your brain will actually fight you on the actions needed to reach that goal. It feels like self-sabotage, but it's really your brain trying to stay consistent with who it thinks you are. So there you have them, the last two roadblocks, that identity problem we just talked about, and the second one, an addiction to potential. Let's be real, sometimes talking about the dream, the exciting idea of who you could be, gives you a bigger rush than the slow, repetitive, and honestly kind of boring work it takes to make it real. But here is the really beautiful part. The solution to all of these traps, even these really deep ones, is exactly the same. It all comes down to action. Every small, consistent action you take is like a vote for a new identity. It's you providing proof to your brain that you are the kind of person who shows up. It's how you turn that exciting idea of potential into the solid reality of proof.
So when you boil it all down, the path from having a big dream to actually living it isn't about waiting for some lightning bolt of motivation to strike. It's about understanding these little tricks your mind plays on you, and then consciously choosing to act anyway. And that brings us to this quote, which just perfectly wraps everything up. It's not about being the most talented person in the room or the smartest. The real difference maker is the person who can feel that fear, hear all the excuses, see that the plan isn't perfect, and just takes one small step forward anyway. So let's make this real. Not tomorrow, not next week. The antidote to all these traps is taking action right now. So what is one tiny, almost laughably small action you can take in the next 5 minutes to move one of your big dreams from just an idea in your head into the actual physical world? The time to start wasn't yesterday, it's right now.